As a founder, you're trying to run a business, and at the same time, you're trying to go through this process against some well-armed professionals who've done it a bunch of times before.
Not against, with.
Yes, with hand in hand. Yeah, I'm just joking about that. But I think there's a lot of things that can be really disruptive, including, as an example, having your employees being interviewed by the company. And that can go a bunch of different ways. One is if the company doesn't want to bring them on board for one reason or another, they may choose out an employee. In our case, that didn't happen, but I've seen that happen. Or alternatively, the people on the team can get really excited. Like, oh my God, I'm going to Facebook, or I'm going to Yahoo or Google or whatever it is. And that can be extremely disruptive because people get extremely distracted. And instead of executing on the business, which is really what you should be doing, people start to wander. Their minds start to wander a lot. And so that means that as you're going through the diligence process, I think you really need to choose the right time at which your team is exposed to the other company. And it's tricky timing because if it's a team buy, that is the basis in large part for the deal. But at the same time, you don't want your team to get enormously distracted in case the deal falls apart. And so it's a really fine line and a fine thing to balance. And that's, again, why I was sort of advocating quick diligence cycles if you can pull it off.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, do some slightly different deals where it's just a pure talent deal. I mean, for us, frankly, we're, every now and then there'll be a pure talent deal, but they're, every few years type of thing. I mean, oftentimes it's much more likely to be tech and talent. And in those situations, we're comfortable evaluating you more on output versus input, if you will. And so if we look at the fact that it's a great piece of technology that's extraordinarily well architected and thoughtful, and it obviously is going to scale. And oh, by the way, you have a rock star lead CTO, and we've met the the engineering manager from Israel, and they're great. And it's like the whole piece. You kind of know that in our in the engineering cultures and whatnot, the people follow the great engineers, and so that alone says a lot to us about the team. And oftentimes we're comfortable, with an in-the-know list on the seller side of pretty small, 5 or 10 people maybe. So if you're doing a talent acquisition, the entire company's 5 or 10 people, I can imagine to be in a different scenario. But I think again, let us know what your concerns and constraints are, and and we're going to help work through that. And there may be situations. I'll let Mike speak for himself, but there may be situations where you truly have to interview everyone. There may be other places where we're comfortable drawing the line at a tighter circle.
One thing I'd also add is to actually rewind the clock from these corp dev discussions. And when you're a small startup and you're excited about doing a commercial deal with Yahoo, say, and somewhere in the back of your mind you're thinking you might want to have an exit with Google or Microsoft, how do you structure your contracts so you don't actually have that be a deal breaker with the other party? So do you sign up to exclusivity arrangements, source code escrows? So be very careful how you structure your contracts. Those contracts could look very exciting from a big partner for a startup, but they could actually impede your ability for an exit.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we're have to watch the clock here. One last question, and then we'll open up to the audience. Let's go down the line, and Elad, if you want to comment on Twitter, feel free. Let's go down the line, though, and have everyone state how many deals they expect to do in 2011 and what types of deals you're looking for. If you have any visibility into that, what are you hunting? And then maybe a bonus question of who else is going to be a very active acquirer in 2011 beyond you guys? Is Apple going to pick it up? Is Amazon, eBay? Mike, start with you. How many deals in 2011 do you think, and what sectors, types, stages? Crystal ball.
Maybe 15 acquisitions. They will be a mix of talent acquisitions where we're looking for people to run important parts of our product who have really strong vision. So I'll give you some examples. Maybe it's social commerce. Maybe it's HTML5 stuff that we're interested in for mobile. Maybe it's around local, so that when someone walks into a store, we can identify that they're there without any hardware. So it's just a software-based system to either check someone in if they're using Facebook Places, or you can send them a coupon or a deal or something. So those are a couple of examples. I mean, if you can see kind of where we're innovating as a company, those are probably the areas where we're likely to acquire because we're hungry for new ideas and leadership. Was that the end of the question? I think so.
Pretty much. Any prognostication on other acquirers that will pick up? There's a lot of large tech companies sitting on a lot of cash. Is anyone else going to get particularly acquisitive this year?
You know, we're on a mission, and we're just so focused on what we're doing, and we have so many ideas and so much yet to do that's all we're thinking about. We're like, oh my gosh, you know, we've got, there's a saying in the company, we're kind of 1% finished, and I really believe that because there's so much of the Facebook story which is still to be written, right? Our business model isn't totally clear. What verticals we're going to go into, if any, isn't clear. What our platform becomes isn't clear. So it's just a really wacky and fascinating place to be because there's so much that we don't know yet. And so we're just focused on that and, you know, wish all the other companies all the best.
Well, as a public company, I think I'll leave the prognosticating on the number of deals to Tim and Carol. But, you know, short answer is, look, we're going to do as many make sense that we can get done. And there's no quota, up or down or whatever. I mean, we're trying to find things that will help our business leaders grow the business faster and do things that are new and interesting that we couldn't do on our own. And so we want to do as many of those as we can possibly get done that put us in a better spot in 2012 than we are here leading into 2011. In terms of where we're focused, I mean, it's, you know, I've said we've continued to focus on what Carol ended up calling the 4 O's, and we all kind of went like that. And it's mobile, local, social, and video. You know, look, that's basically, I think, the major horizontal themes that the Internet's dealing with, and Yahoo as sort of a big cross-section of the Internet is absolutely dealing with that. You know, we continue to see a bunch of innovation in ad tech, and we believe that you know, we have sort of a lead and an advantage there, and we want to make sure that we continue to move as fast as the industry's going. So that's another area where I think, you know, we'll see that. Something that came out of the Dapper deal that we just did a few months ago, those guys, you know, started out on a content play and ended up morphing into you know, being able to ingest content from websites and target ads in a dynamic fashion. And I think that's interesting and unique because when we sort of stepped back and looked at it, we realized that in many ways the ad part of the world has gotten more personalized than the content and experiences part of the world. And I think, you know, things that Facebook are doing and others are fascinating in terms of, you know, curating content. Twitter's doing it as well with your social network. And I think, you know, clearly in the future, just like ads are targeted, you know, algorithmically and based on what we know about you, I think that's another interesting area that you know, that we're watching. And you know, how do you make the web more personally relevant to you?
Eli, do you have any commentary on this question?
I actually have no idea how many companies Twitter is going to buy. I'm not involved with that area at all. So I think 2 companies, to answer the other part of the question, 2 companies that I personally am guessing will become very acquisitive next year are Salesforce. And I think there's a fundamental shift in their strategy, and I think they're going to buy a whole bunch of stuff. And then I actually think there's a whole wave of innovation in e-commerce. And so my prediction would be Amazon and potentially Gilt, and I think Groupon will continue to sort of plow through companies.
You think, I think Naval referenced it in his talk about medium-sized companies, still private, raising enough money to start making acquisitions. So we're going to see a lot of smaller than Facebook private companies buying even smaller companies like we have in the room here.
I've already seen that start to happen in terms of certain companies that normally wouldn't associate with M&A starting to make offers, and some of them you would think are reasonably young companies, but they're already going at it. So
yeah, good.
I have to echo what
Sure.
said, and I would also add that it just doesn't necessarily work that way where we set out to do X number of deals. They're very opportunistic based on, you know, if it falls into those various reasons why we do deals. But given that we're probably the king of the wacky companies, sorry to dethrone you, Mike, you know, we have crazy cars that drive around that you've seen or heard about, and we're in mobile, social, and email, and communications, and search, and personally, I can't speak for Google. I mean, I don't necessarily always find the information I need on Google.com, so I think even search is in the second or third inning. Advertising is still evolving, mobile's evolving, cloud computing, and we tend to be in all these areas, including robotics and green tech and all kinds of other things. So I think we're going to be busy, as our CEOs implied.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right, let's get some audience questions. Greg, Robin, please.
You guys, as I kind of read the tea leaves between you, you talk about kind of the cultural differences between the companies. I think that's kind of your pitch to the crowd at large. Going down the road, what would be your pitch vis-a-vis these guys on why a culture might fit your company? What is it that you're looking for a culture?
We're looking for hackers. We're looking for men and women who want to drink Red Bull and Mountain Dew and stay up all night and turn an idea into an ugly-looking prototype that they can maybe buy some Google search traffic on and test and see what people think of it. We're looking for people who are impatient, who like to write code, who want to crank stuff out and think social is going to change the world. So I think hackers, welcome.
I think it's a great question. Ours, I think, is a little more broader in that I think there's the company has a culture, and for many years, has had sort of two sides of the business in regards to the hardcore technology, and frankly, we've even got the labs and the scientists and all that. And so, at its roots,